Welcome to Never Too Late for Fitness Radio, bringing baby boomers proven strategies and innovative products for getting fit, staying fit, so you can live a longer, healthier, and happier life. Here's your host, best-selling author and fitness advocate, Phil Ferriss.
This is Phil Ferriss, and welcome to our show. Never Too Late for Fitness Radio provides answers and straight talk about fitness, nutrition, and healthy lifestyles for people over 50. Our goal is to educate and advocate health and fitness strategies that help you to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. How many Monday mornings have you said to yourself, this is the week I'll get back on track with exercise, healthy eating habits, nutrition, you name it. So many of us could use a little more motivation and expert guidance to get started or, in a lot of cases, restarted with healthier habits that will get us the results we want while being realistic and sustainable. It's not easy. My guest today is Cathy Richards. She is a best-selling author of Boom, 6 Steps to a Longer, Healthier Life. She is also an exercise physiologist and wellness coach who has helped thousands of clients find the right mix of healthy eating and exercise that gets them the results and that they can stick with long-term to keep the results. Thank you, Cathy, for being on the show today.
Oh, happy to be here.
So it sounds like you work with a lot of frustrated individuals, especially this time of year. What are the most common frustrations people come to you with?
You know, Phil, people do get so frustrated with the fact that they have started and stopped so many times. They tend to feel like, I can't do this again, or I'm just not meant to exercise. I just can't do it. And by the time they start feeling so bad about themselves, then you're not really in the mood to try again. You're in the mood to go comfort yourself with a bag of Oreos, right? So I have a lot of clients and potential clients who I talk to. And when I think about this one particular client who I started working with, and she was telling me about how she had started, all these different things. She tried Beachbody. She tried going to a gym. She tried exercising just at home. And she tried all these different things. And she's like, why can't I stick with it? I just don't understand. And so we really started talking about the mindset and how there's so much about our mindset that sets us up for this cycle of starting and stopping.
Well, can you tell us a little bit more about, you talk about cycle, a mental cycle, which leads to a physical cycle, but where does it start? And then just walk us through what that cycle looks like.
Yeah, well, the first thing is that when we think about the value of exercise and changing our habits, and we look at the things that fill our lives in our personal lives or our work lives, and we compare the things that are urgent versus the things that are important. And if we're not talking about exercise, even if it's just business or personal, okay, what's urgent versus what's important? Well, the things that get our attention are typically the urgent, right? The things that are fires we're putting out. And so exercise and a lot of the other healthy habits that we know we quote unquote should do are never urgent. Like a single exercise session is never going to be the most urgent thing on your plate. So that's one of the reasons why we have such a hard time sticking to them, because it's like, we know we want to exercise in general. We know that cumulatively it's beneficial, but each and every specific exercise session, we think, oh, well, I'll just do it later when I have more time, or, oh, this other thing really needs my attention. So we just blow that one off. And then the next thing you know, we get so out of the habit, and it's been, we have a hard time getting back to it. So the ways that I have really found that most people can overcome it better, it starts off with really recognizing that it is this mindset, and that we have this all or none approach that a lot of time we're putting off until we have this big chunk of time where we can really focus on it. And guess what? That time slot never comes. And we've told ourselves that smaller amounts of exercise aren't going to do any good, so why bother? And we've just made both of those mental jumps in our head, when the truth is that there are really meaningful benefits from even small amounts of time. And there are small things that we do every day that are non-negotiable. Like, what puts something in a non-negotiable category in your head? And I always pose this question, Phil, and don't laugh. It's kind of a silly one. When I say, Phil, did you brush your teeth this morning?
Yes, I did.
Oh my goodness. Yay for you. Did you give yourself a big pat on the back for doing it?
No, I did not.
And why not?
Because it's just something you do without thinking about it.
Yes, right? So, and how long did it take you to brush your teeth this morning?
Truth, maybe a minute.
Yeah. So are there things that we could do that would benefit our body that could take a minute or two, just like brushing your teeth physically? And I know you know just as well as I do that there sure are. And the example I usually give is someone could do a plank and a lower back stretch. Right. To strengthen their abdominals and stretch their lower back. And if that was something they linked to when they brush their teeth in the morning, and it was just part of what they do, and that it wasn't such a big time thing, and it was just a non-negotiable, you do it. Yeah, and so and I had this one client. This is a sad example, actually. So I'd had a personal training client when I was a bit younger, and this was a busy corporate guy. He was like probably late 40s. It wasn't even 50, and he was always canceling his appointments. Right. And then he had a heart attack. Okay. It wasn't even 50. Had a heart attack at like 48. So he was in cardiac rehab. And you'll bet he didn't miss his cardiac rehab appointments.
Right.
A brush with death will do that to you. So there's that whole thing about, again, urgent versus important. And so if once you have this compelling motivator, like, like I can't afford not to. So that's kind of the other thing. Once you really accept it in your head, it's mindset that I can't afford not to, and it doesn't have to be all or none. Then that's that combination of those things and having those options for doing more or doing less, but never falling into the category of doing nothing. That's how you overcome not sticking to it.
So what mindset shift does someone have to do to start getting on the track? So if it starts in the head, and I said, I've got all these excuses, and I put them, but all right, now I want to jump from the excuses to the action. What's the jump I have to make, and how do you help people make that jump mentally?
Well, the first thing, and there is something that you're probably familiar with, Phil. I wonder how many of your listeners are familiar with something called the stages of change.
Okay.
And it's a psychological model that talks about whether we're trying to start exercising or quit smoking or balance our finances, whatever it is we want to do, we go through these stages and being ready to make a change. And if someone might mentally feel like, so what about whatever the topic is, then the first step is just to start thinking about it, just to start entertaining the thought that maybe this is a good idea. And then once you're mentally kind of thinking about it, because you might have had a lot of messages of, I think this is something important, you start mulling it over, then the next little mental jump is the preparation. So once you start thinking the wheels are turning, how am I going to do this? How would this work out for me? Where would I go? What would I do? Then that's your next step. So both of those changes have to happen sequentially before you actually get to the action part where you're actually going to do something. So, so I really think it's that realizing the benefits. And I love to go at that angle with telling a story about my son, Jeff. So if you'll humor me, you'll see where this is going. So my son, Jeff, he's 23 years old. Okay. He just graduated from Purdue and he commissioned into the Navy, and he is going to be stationed in San Diego in about 2 weeks. Okay. So, but the story starts when he was in high school, and he was a really discombobulated teenager. His backpack was full of papers and dog-eared things that were shoved into binders, and he was always so disorganized. And when I would try to ask him to, don't forget about this, don't forget about that, his favorite phrase he would say to me is, "Mom, that's future Jeff's problem." Okay. Yeah, you laugh. As a mom, I didn't laugh. I was like, Jeff, please, future Jeff is really going to appreciate present Jeff taking care of this. But it became a family line, future Jeff's problem. Well, when I was working with older adults, I was the director of wellness at a senior living community where the average age was 85. And so there were over 1,400 people, they were around 85. And some of them were doing Zumba, they were having happy hours, they were traveling the world. And then there are other 85-year-olds who are in the skilled nursing portion of the community, right? So I started asking my younger people when I would do talks and interviews like this, what type of 85-year-old do you want to be? Because you're working on it right now. So that phrase has resonated with a lot of people thinking, because at 84, you don't suddenly turn into the kind of 85-year-old you're going to be. You're working on it in all these decades leading up to it. So it's really absorbing the gravity of our daily habits and how that impacts not only our quality of life now, but our quality of life later. Like, what do you want for yourself in your 70s and 80s? And so we really want to take it slow. If we're not doing anything now, all right, well, let's not be hard on ourselves. Let's think, what is one small thing I can do? What's one small thing that will go in the right direction and not be too hard on yourself?
So what are some of the things? So there's this aha moment where people find that I got to do something different. And it could be a heart attack. It could be, it could be a comment. I know a friend of mine wrote to me and he said, for years, my wife and my doctor would tell me, lose weight, lose weight, lose weight. And he said, one day I went to school and he was a principal and he said he had a brand new shirt on. And one of his colleagues came up to him and said, Randy, you kind of look like a sausage in that thing.
Oh, my.
and he said he wasn't trying to put me down. He just made an observation. And he said, for some reason, I looked in the mirror and he said, my God, he's right. And he said that day, he stopped. He said, I stopped drinking the Cokes. I stopped eating the bread. I started, and in 6 months, he lost 60 pounds and he started working.
Wow.
And he said, the same words came out of my doctor's mouth, my wife's mouth, my kid's mouth, and a random comment hit, and it was like, oh, now. So you never know when that aha is going to happen. But when it does, now you got to say, what do I do? So what are some of the things that people should do that are just starting to get back on track? I always suggest think of one small thing that you can start doing that you can still see yourself doing a year from now. Maybe one small thing might be you're going to start off by drinking a full glass of water right when you wake up. Okay. Starting your day really hydrated is a fantastic thing that will help you feel more energetic all day long. Another thing you can do is the suggestion I gave earlier, which is pick one exercise or two exercises that take literally 5 minutes and commit to doing those where you tack it on to something else you're already doing during the day. If you don't feel like doing an exercise routine that actually involves changing into exercise clothes and doing something a little longer on purpose. And if you are interested in doing something that's a little more intentional exercise that takes up a little more time, walking is a great place to start. You could just decide to go for even a 15-minute walk. I love people to decide to actually write them on their calendar. Usually the things that we're doing just for ourselves, they're kind of stay in our head. And if they're never made public and someone else suggests something else, we just it goes by the wayside. But if you say to yourself, I'm going to go for a walk at lunchtime every Tuesday and Thursday, and then I'm going to make sure that first thing in the morning on Saturday is the other time when I'm going to do it. Then you've made it a little more official, a little more concrete versus saying, I'm just going to exercise more. Like whenever we're vague, we don't tend to get as far as when we're specific. So you might have heard the term SMART goals, right? When you set a goal, it needs to be a little bit more specific and measurable, so that those are the kind of things that you can really feel successful about because you defined it a little bit more, but you also didn't make it too big of a goal either. Yeah, so an example of that is when the weather was nice, my wife and I did a lot of walking, and she does more walking. I do more lifting and tennis, but we walked there. And then when the weather got bad, she was in a situation where her club where she is, you have to have a reservation to walk at a certain time, and they have a limited number of people. So she does that 3 times a week. And she says, well, I got my reservation at 9:00. So her day is set around her appointment. It's like it's a doctor's appointment or a dentist's appointment. Right. It's her exercise appointment. And that's her form of exercise. I play with a group of tennis players. And so when I have to be there on Friday or I have to be there on Monday, I know that there's people waiting. So that's in my calendar, like you say. And it's just part of your day that everything revolves around because it's an urgent and important activity because if I don't show up, there's a consequence.
Mm-hmm. And it's scheduled. And yes. So if you have other people you're accountable to. And so that's what really helps. So having some kind of accountability measure, whereas your wife, if she has to sign up, like they're not just going to keep giving her these slots if she doesn't show up. Sometimes There's a real penalty of paying, and sometimes there's a just kicking you off the, the list of,
right.
you know. But so there is that accountability there for both of those. So if someone's has decided the way they're going to exercise involves no accountability of nobody knowing what you're doing or caring whether or not you do it, then if you're the kind of person who hasn't stuck to things very well in the past, that's not going to probably be your best strategy.
Okay. So you talk about the idea of quick wins versus quick fixes. And, right now there's an awful lot, if you look on social media, on TV, wherever you go, there are the silver bullets of lose 20 pounds in 5 days without dieting or whatever that's out there. And those are a lot of quick fixes. And you're not an advocate of those. So tell us about what's the difference between quick fixes and quick wins?
Well, quick fix is what you said. It's when you do something really drastic to get really big results really fast. And unfortunately, when you do something that drastic over that short of a period of time, it typically does not stick. And you typically regain the weight or fall back into your old habits because it wasn't realistic. It wasn't something that was sustainable. So when you have a quick fix, and it's a Band-Aid and it's not really solving the long-term habits. It's not really getting to the root issue of how you're going to change your life long-term. Then it doesn't usually last long enough for the results to stay with you and to really compound. And you end up feeling worse about yourself. So why I recommend what's called the quick win instead, it's completely the opposite. So rather than doing something really drastic where you get these results really fast that are kind of too big of a results for that period of time should be, do something that's really small so you can feel so successful, like, woohoo, I walked for 5 minutes, like, something that you're proud of yourself for, and versus feeling bad about yourself. Because what happens with the quick fixes, we end up feeling worse about ourselves because we're like, oh, I fell off the wagon again. And the quick win is something that you can build on because you were successful with something small and then you try a little more and you get successful with that and then you try a little more. So it's like baby steps that you can feel good about the whole time.
Absolutely. So what are some other examples of quick wins that people can start incorporating into their life that can make a difference?
I love the idea of using some type of pedometer. And, whether it's a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or something else, because those of us who are spending so much more time at home these days, which is mostly everybody, right? We're just moving less. So instead of just thinking about exercise time versus non-exercise time, if we're able to be a little more aware of how much we're moving all day long, then that's a way where we can incrementally make a little bit of different choices about how much we're standing and moving and walking. And so if you're aware of that and you say, I only walk 3,000 steps a day all day long, then you can think, let me try to add 500 steps tomorrow. Let me add, a lot of times you want to, you're motivated to adjust that just a bit because you have a number that you can actually compare for the next day.
And so it's giving, and again, for one person, it's doing 3,000 steps. Another one may say, gee, I did 10,000 and that's not enough. And so
right, exactly.
It's relative.
Different.
Where are you in terms of your, fitness journey? If you're 3,000 steps, go to 3,500. If you're at 10,000, go to 11,000. So there's different levels require different things. And it's not about competing with someone else. It's improving upon where you are. So you
Absolutely.
get better.
And the reason why I use that example of 3,000 going to 3,500 is because when you read out in just the popular media, you'll read 10,000 steps a day is a good goal. Mm-hmm. And which is true for people who have no real health risks and who are willing to exercise a good bit, like at least 30 minutes a day of something that's at least a moderate intensity. You can probably get up to 10,000 a day. However, if someone gets some type of pedometer and tries it out for the first time and notices, wow, I'm only getting 3,000, to suddenly say, I'm going to go for 10,000, that's a pretty big jump. So, or you could be somebody who has significant health risks. When I was working in senior living and I had a client who was using a walker and she couldn't walk very fast at all. It would take her a year to get to 3,000 steps. So why would I even mention anything about 10,000 steps a day to her? That would be demoralizing. It's not going to be helpful to hear a general recommendations. We really just need to know what's incrementally helpful for us.
Besides just, like you mentioned, walking and moving, what are some other components of an exercise program that people should start considering, especially people over 50? And I know you work for a lot of women over 50. So what are some things they should at least be aware of that they should look to start including in their exercise program?
Well, it's a couple of big things. The first biggest one is weight training. If I could wave a banner for the most valuable thing women over 50 can do, it would be to start strength training if they haven't already started. Because having those stronger muscles, it's going to support your joints. It's going to help your bone density. It's going to help you stay independent and able to ward off a lot of the aches and pains that can happen to us as we age. So even lifting light weights in a short routine is going to be helpful to you. But a lot of times women are intimidated by the weights. They might not know how to use them. And they might think that, that's for guys or have a lot of misconceptions about it. But there's probably not a single thing you can do that will give you more benefits if you're a woman over 50 than to start strength training. And so I love to teach women how to do a simple routine they can do at home with just dumbbells, exercise tubing, and a ball. And it doesn't have to take a lot of time, and you can get phenomenal benefits from that.
And it is important if you're using resistance training to understand proper form.
Yes.
Even with light weights you want to do. And again, it doesn't require elaborate things because it's squatting, it's lunging, it's pushing, it's pressing, it's pulling. And those basic movements come into play in everyday life as well. Mm-hmm. And so that it's a big. I'm also a big advocate, and I've worked with women in their 70s and 80s that train with weights, and they say, I have to do this. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I will start feeling it in my body. And
right, so absolutely.
So
and I'm glad you mentioned about the instruction being so important and how form is so important, because I know that a lot of women are afraid of hurting themselves, and that's a good thing to be cautious. It's a good thing to be cautious to say, you know what, I don't want to hurt my back. I don't want to hurt my knees. I don't want to. So we want to protect our joints. We want to have good form. And so even if you get instruction just for a couple of times, that's why one of the things I do is I work with some clients on an ongoing basis, but I also work with some clients just in the beginning and then just for checkups, just to kind of as a touch point to make sure that they're comfortable with their routine and they know how to do it correctly, and they're able to have peace of mind that they're getting the benefits and they're not going to injure themselves, because that's really important.
And the last thing you want to do when you start an exercise program is push too fast.
That's right. And where's that line? I mean, one of my clients was like, I don't exercise because I know that I need to push myself, but I also don't want to get injured. So I don't know where the fine line is between, not pushing myself enough and getting injured. So I need help figuring out where that fine line is.
And that's usually where a coach or a personal trainer comes in, and I think it's very, very, very valuable, whether it be online or in person. The biggest thing that I found that trainers do, or what I tried, is educate. It's about educating the client about their body so they understand how it works. And when it's not working properly, to recognize that, to understand when to push, when not to push, what is the right exertion level. And that education is critical so that they can self-regulate. And adapt exercise. It's like not every exercise is going to be right for every person.
for instance, when I said, hey, if you have 2 minutes, do a plank and do a lower back stretch. Well, Phil, and I know, but we would need to demonstrate for your listeners, there's 6 different levels of a plank, right? From someone who has, whose abdominal muscles are strongest to very weak. And so there's a way to customize exercises for any fitness level. When I worked with clients who were in the skilled nursing section of the senior living community, I would help clients just engage the core muscles enough to be able to sit up in bed. Mm-hmm. That's the level that they're at. So to try to sit up for 3 seconds and then lay back again, and then sit up again for 3 seconds and then lay back again, that was their workout. So we have to meet ourselves where we are and what we're ready for.
You have a concept. You said never too early and never too late. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, the never too early, never too late came from my history of first working in corporate America and then working with seniors at a retirement community. So when I was working in corporate, I was the wellness director for Marriott for a number of years. And I had all these busy corporate people saying they didn't have time. They'd worry about it later. They were healthy enough now, and kind of feeling like, as long as everything's working, they don't need to exercise. Right. And so the point of starting now, because now, start early before you have problems, so that you can prevent problems in the future and so you can age as healthfully as possible. And then, when I was working in senior living and really focusing on all the research that tells us that the human body and the muscles specifically respond to exercise and change at advanced ages. You could be well into your 90s, beyond, in the skilled nursing arena where your muscles have gotten quite weak, and you can still respond to exercise. Your muscles will still grow and get stronger. And so it is never too late to get stronger. But it's also never too early. So some people joke to me, they say, well, if it's never too late, I will just start later. I was like, no, you missed a point. The point is, wherever you are now, start now. And I've expanded my age frame, because now I also work with college students. I'm teaching at a community college. And so I'm really deciding never too early, because we should be talking to our kids and to our listeners or grandkids. Starting those healthy habits when they're teenagers or even younger is wonderful. Seeing the examples and having the family relationships where you're doing things together, multi-generational, is priceless.
When my grandkids come and visit, we have a workout area, and that's their favorite area. And my granddaughter last time was in, she came in and says, Papa, guess what? I can do clap push-ups. And I said, well, show me. And I said, how many can you do? And she did 10. And she says, okay, it's your turn, Grandpa.
Oh, no.
So I said, okay, here's 10. It's like, so I have to be able to keep up with my grandkids. And the last time she said, I just did a 7-minute plank. And I'm going,
7 minutes?
7 minutes for a 10-year-old. I've never done a 7. I've never had the motivation to do it. Done 3-4 minutes, but it's like, so the next time I see her, I'm going to have to be in shape enough to do a plank off with my 10-year-old daughter.
Oh my goodness.
So, but the idea is that exercise is seen as something that's fun. Mm-hmm. And, they're my daughter and her husband, they work out. And so it's just, they don't think, oh my God, this is drudgery. I got to go work out. It's like, when do they get to work out? Can we go play basketball? Can we do this? Right. It's being active. And one thing I recommend people is find things you enjoy and do it.
That's right.
And whether it be tennis, wakeboarding, walking, skiing, find things you enjoy, and then it's not drudgery. And you don't worry about the steps. I play 2 hours of tennis. I don't worry about how many steps I'm getting in. I just worry about how did I play. And so it's a whole lot different mindset of, oh, I got to go work out. So find things you actually enjoy or make it more enjoyable.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great way to look at it.
So do you have any advice for the person that hates to exercise and has a limited amount of time? What's the best thing you can do to at least help them get started? And yeah.
Well, what I do when we have this conversation with my clients, I say, do you want good cop or bad cop? Basically.
Okay.
Because you can take the angle of, we do lots of things we don't want to do, right? It's called being an adult. Last I checked, I didn't really like cleaning the bathroom, but I do that. Last time I checked, I make dinner for my family every darn night. And so we all do things we don't like to do. And so sometimes we might have to have it. That's what it is. It's something on our list where you just check it off and you just knock it out. Most successful people in life are, have certain things that they know are just part of what they need to do. But then your other example is the other extreme. That's the good cop part, is finding something you do enjoy. So if you have something you do enjoy, then it isn't work or drudgery, and making it fun, making it being with other people. And also it's back to that mindset stuff. When you said, if you combine don't like it plus too busy, is that it doesn't have to be long, and stop telling yourself that I might as well not bother if I can't do X, Y, Z, that even a little bit counts. Even a little bit helps. What's the minimum that people should be shooting for? Well, I'm going to set the bar awful low. I told you already that my bar is set at like 2 minutes or a minute, because it's really it's that habit. Because once you have the habit, it can grow and evolve. So I'm not as worried about the actual content in the very beginning, because if you're not doing anything, then your starting is not about the content benefit. It's about the mindset benefit of habit, so that it can grow and evolve and grow to something that you're actually getting the physical benefit from. Most of us who start and stop and start and stop, by the end of the year, they're actually worse off than they started, because they've gained and lost and gained and lost. And they're worse off than if they had never even done anything, versus starting something small and they're still building on it, so that when the year comes, it's grown to something that when they look back on, they've really made quite a change. And the other thing that I think is people can do it at different times during the day. And one of the things you mentioned, brushing your teeth. As soon as I brush my teeth, I've developed a short stretching routine I do in the mirror, which is to lengthen my spine and my shoulders and my chest. And just something I picked up, and I said, well, I'm sitting all day, a lot more than normal because of the COVID. And I said, this is something I need to open up. And in 1 minute, I feel that much better. And I do it a couple times a day because I've been sitting. And I said, time to get up. And here's just a couple things I can do. And it makes me feel that much better. Now, is that exercise? Well, it increases my mobility, so that when I do exercise, I don't risk injuring myself. But again, it's a couple minutes a day, and then you put in other things that I do, and cumulatively it gets what I want. Where before my mind used to be, I have to have an hour at the gym to do everything. Well, I mean, you may break it up into three different parts, especially if you're in lockdown mode. You may have to get more creative. Yeah. And Phil, I'm glad you brought up stretching, because early when you asked about what people should include over 50, and we started talking about weight training for so long, we didn't get a chance to say that, stretching needs to be included also, because we are getting stiffer as we age. And I'm doing a lot more stretching and a lot of more yoga-based stretching than I used to at my age. And I'm 54 now. And I know that my body needs it and loves it, and that I miss it. My body feels more stiff when I'm not adding some stretching into my day. And it doesn't have to be an hour and a half class. You can do lots of little stretches to get you through the day. So that, again, that's important, that it's incremental things you can do over time that make a difference. Now, you wrote a book, Boom, The 6 Steps to a Longer, Healthier Life. Can you tell us a little bit about it and where we can get it if we're interested? Yes. Well, Boom, the name came from the idea of an explosion of a wake-up call, like something we really need to pay attention to. What is it that will make a huge impact on our lives that we might have been not paying attention to in the past? And there's also that phrase that people say, boom, done. Like it's just a foregone conclusion. This is what we're going to do, and I don't need to think about it anymore. So we don't have to think of a negative explosion like boom, like destroying things. There's like a color. So my cover of the book is a color explosion. And I wrote the book after working in senior living, as I mentioned, with my Never Too Early, Never Too Late, because if there are 6 steps having to do with exercise and mindset, eating and sleep, all these things, that if we really want to not only live longer, but live healthier longer, then these are the things that are most important. And because we know that Americans are living longer, but we also know that health tends to decline year by year by year by year, right. Starting from our 40s or 50s. And so is that what we really want? When people say, when I asked you that question earlier, what type of 85-year-old do you want to be? People always jokingly say the kind that's above ground, And I respond, is that really the bar? Like, I hope that's not the bar, because we don't want to live a long life if our quality of life is really diminished. So that's what's important. All of us want to be independent as we age. All of us don't want, we want to be able to be in control of our bowels and control of our muscles and control of our minds into the habits that we can change now, because up to 70% of how we age is determined by our lifestyle. So we got to grab hold of the things that we can change to increase our chances of aging healthfully.
I agree. I mean, I look at my tennis group at ages from 50 to 80, and we play competitive tennis. And the guys in the middle are looking at the guys that are 80 and say, well, they're still playing, and they're playing well. So that's where I want to be in 10 years.
Right.
The 50-year-olds are looking at the 70-year-olds and say, man, that's where I want to be. And I said, well, keep doing what you're doing to keep doing what you want to do. And that's important.
Yeah. So, yes, my book it's on Amazon. Okay. So, just search for there, boom. And my name, Cathy Richards. And there are people always think Cathys with a K. Right. And so I shouldn't take offense at that, because I always say Cathy with a C. Whenever someone asks you your name and when they're over the phone, I always had Cathy with a C. And my parents said they named me Kathleen with a C because they saw an actress on the credits of a movie, and they thought it just looked pretty together to have Kathleen with a C instead of a K.
Now, you have some special offer for our listeners. Can you tell us about it?
I do. Yes. January is a time when a lot of us are really trying to change our habits. And so I'm having a free masterclass. It's in a webinar format, just an online class. It's called Willpower is a Myth, the 3-step, no nonsense formula for smart women who want to shape up and slim down. So the goal is that willpower means something that you're sticking to, white knuckling through. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. Like, how can we make habit change that's sustainable and that's easy and, not hard? So we're having this class on Tuesday, January 19th. And you can sign up online at cathyrichards.net/2021. And like I said, Cathy Richards is with a C. And I'm sure you'll put this in your show notes too. People can access it there.
We'll have a link for that.
Yeah. But I would love to see your listeners join me. And there's be a time for questions and answers. It'll be live, and would love to connect.
Well, it's a way to get some in-depth information from someone that's helped thousands of people that have been in the spot that you're in right now. It's like, how do I get started? How do I get traction? How do I get the results I want and sustain it? Cathy is going to be providing some, wealth of information for you. Besides that, where else can they contact you or get information about you and what you do?
Yeah, well, my website, cathyrichards.net, also has a page /free that has other free downloads. So I have a special report on there about 3 reasons why we all struggle losing weight. I have a free challenge you can download on that page, lots of fun stuff. And also for your listeners who are on social media, they can follow me on Facebook or Instagram at Inspiring Vitality.
All right. Well, Cathy, I want to thank you so much for sharing your experience and, more importantly, your passion and dedication to helping people to get healthy and live a longer, happier life. So thank you for being on the show.
It's been my pleasure, Phil.
Have a great day.
Thanks. You too.
You've been listening to Never Too Late for Fitness Radio, hosted by Phil Ferris. To learn more about the guests or resources on our show today, or to listen to past episodes, go to nevertoolateforfitness.com.